He could rep hearts here. He does rep hearts.
Wow.
He moves all in. What a play. What a play. He moves all in. How can
Surely
Isildur call?
Isildur can't call here.
Well, there is Isildur 1 or Viktor Blom looking tortured, which means this must be a pretty big decision because this guy is accustomed to winning and losing like $4 million a month. So this decision must be a pretty important one. And it is. We're heads up for the Party Poker Millions Germany. It's a big title.
It is a big title. It's important to know, though, that the title probably really matters to Blom because they've actually already made a deal. They both have locked up 750,000 euros, and the winner gets 100,000 more, up to 850,000 euros, instead of the 400,000 euro swing that was already in the prize structure. So they're playing for a lot less. That may play into this hand a little bit too.
Well, this hand has already become legend,
yes.
And that is probably why all of these people suggested it, and even more suggested it that we probably couldn't find. I mean it's a crazy, interesting hand, and that's why we're going to get right into it.
We're very excited to. But before we do, we got to tell you about Dash Digital Cash, or the people who made this video possible. Dash is a cryptocurrency with lightning fast, truly lightning fast transactions, like instantaneous and also crazy cheap transactions.
Yeah, like I can send Jonathan Dash and it takes 1 second and it costs 1 cent.
I mean,
that is no joke. And Dash is doing a lot for you as well. We just did a Dash giveaway where we gave away a full Dash, which is about $600. That's some serious cashish, man.
Some serious cheese.
Yeah.
And we're going to do another one of those giveaways next month as well. Keep your eyes peeled on our Twitter account. We're going to talk about it on this show as well. But it's free money. You got to get in on this and Dash Digital Cash. It's the wave of the future.
Yeah, sure. That's a good slogan for it. Anyway,
we'll stick with that.
Let's get to this interesting hand.
Isil with King 6. He comes in for a raise. Pavel has Queen 7 suited in the big. Can't see him going anywhere.
He raises to 35 million. Pavel calls. Nice door card, and both players have flopped a pair.
See, Isildur does the backdoor flush draw as well with his king. And he keeps the aggression up as he has done every time he's flopped any hand in the heads-up play. Pavel, of course, has backdoor diamonds. So he will surely call.
Now, if he catches a diamond on the turn, he might want to play the hand far more aggressively. Obviously, if a heart comes, Isildur will be in the same spot. Currently winning, and it is the ace of diamonds on the turn.
Well, I imagine Pavel will check this and Isildur checks back.
Pavel...
Unless Isil thinks he can get his opponent to call with a worse hand. He is cutting out a big bet.
This is a big pot developing here. Pavel with third pair nut flush draw. Isildur put in a sizable bet there, 105,000. Currently winning with his king.
Pavel obviously will call here. Does have a pair and the backdoor nut flush draw. No reason for him to fold.
It wouldn't surprise me if he raised.
Well, I think raising just makes all the bluffs fold and every better hand still calls. Oh, he doesn't. I don't think he's thinking Isildur's necessarily going to bet this big with just the king. If he knew that, he would raise, but.
Well, that is a very interesting turn card and very interesting turn plays.
Yeah.
Now, Isildur betting the turn is unique and different than what we usually see. We are not going to get into that right now. We're going to talk more about Pavel's decision on the turn, which is kind of simple. He has to call at this point when he picks up the flush draw.
He absolutely does. By the way, if you want to hear more about our thoughts on Isildur's really interesting bet on the turn, you got to check out our podcast where we go into depth in it. It isn't like we haven't talked about it.
Yeah.
We just don't have time on this video to get into it.
We don't have any time for you. Only audio time, okay? That's how it works.
But there's a really important function of this bet, which is now when Isildur bets this much with the implied odds being what they are, meaning that Pavel has less than a pot-sized bet left, Pavel cannot have a naked flush draw anymore. He has to have more than that. He cannot call otherwise.
That's going to be important. That's why we're bringing it up. He can't have the 4-5 of diamonds or the 4-5 of hearts anymore because he's just priced out of the pot. He can't do anything about it.
He really can't even have like a gut shot and a flush draw, right? He would have moved in at some point instead, right?
Yeah, so
had to.
Keep that in mind. That's important. Let's see what happens on the river.
Wouldn't the ace have been a good card just to rep it though?
Well, he's got a pair. If he had no pair, then I think he might try and bluff. But Pavel does have a losing hand. I suspect this will go check, check. Pavel trying to work out how he missed that one. Desperate to get to showdown. He could rep hearts here. He does rep hearts.
Wow!
He moves all in. What a play. What a play. He moves all in. How can
Surely
Isildur call?
Isildur can't call here. He's thinking it through in his head. He's thinking he called me on the flop. If he caught the ace on the turn, surely he would have bet.
Well, it's hearts or nothing.
Raised. Yes, he's checking the chip count. This would be an astonishing call if he makes it.
He can be beat here is if Pavel has the nut flush. That's what he's thinking.
Oh.
Has this guy got exactly the kind of hand he has? Worst pair that is now trying to rep the flush. At first I thought there's no way I can call. Thinking through it the way he is, you can definitely find a call here.
Yeah, he's not got any king heart combinations.
It's just so crucial. There aren't flush draws he can check call the turn with. Don't have a pair. There's 105 million on the turn.
If he makes this call, he is going to become even bigger hero in the poker fraternity.
He's shaking his head. It'll be some call to win the tournament. Looks like he is going for the fold.
I think I'm going to jump out of my chair if he makes this call. It'll be the most unbelievable call I've seen in this situation.
Can't call. Looking at the trophy. He was glancing at the trophy. That is what he will get if he makes this call. And €1 million, of course. And if he were to call, this will go down as one of the great hands in poker.
He's thinking he hasn't got an ace. He would have raised on the turn.
Well, it's the ace-high flush, pretty much or nothing. Isildur blocks the other pair and flush combo.
This is unbelievable tension.
I'd like to see Pavel, how much he's squirming in a seat at this spot. Pavel simply had enough of this.
What's your feeling? I think he's going to call.
On edge here.
What do you think at home? I mean, like, this is phenomenal. This is for the title.
Doesn't want to call, but his gut's telling him. Only the nut flush plays this
Wow!
one.
What a goal! That's phenomenal!
Oh my God!
That is the greatest goal I've seen live here in Rosmerdorf. You saw it. Isildur made the call of the tournament.
Woo-wee, that was a showy call.
Woo-wee.
Gotta love it there, Mr. Poopy Butthole.
Yeah.
So that's a Rick and Morty reference.
Yeah.
That's not his nickname or anything. So let's start with Pavel's decision to shove this river, which I gotta tell you, I'm not a big fan of. I don't really see the point here. Well, you can make a case, a very good one actually, that Pavel basically has no bluffs, because as we said on the turn, when Isildur bets that much on that board, Pavel really has to have a made hand of some sort.
Yep.
So really, we're down to, as Pavel, the only hand I can think that we're really supposed to have is the nut flush.
Right. Well, that makes some sense as
Yeah.
value. But let's talk about it for a second as, should we even be doing this? We have a
Right.
queen.
Exactly.
We have showdown value.
And look who's across the table.
Yeah,
It's Viktor frickin' Blom.
Yeah, this is the guy who we did a breakdown on where he put in like 973 blinds against an amateur with king deuce off for no reason.
Right.
So that's the guy you want to let blast off and bluff.
When you have it, if we think we're behind on the turn, why are we just, what are we doing with this hand? It's super weird. If I make a flush, I will check, and if I don't make it, I'm gonna, you have a queen. This is a guy who's insane. You have to check and let him blast off just in case. You cannot turn your hand into a bluff here. Also, he's Viktor Blom. As you see, he's not very interested in folding a better hand.
He's obviously not. Now, it's not like this is a rudimentary call that's like,
No.
oh, so easy, I call here. Obviously, you
not.
look at how tortured Viktor Blom is here. Look how many times he almost folds. Now, I don't know if that's angling where he's trying to get a read or something. I think in my mind, it's a little bit genuine. Like, it
Yeah.
looks like he's truly pained by this decision. Now, there are a couple things that go into Viktor's decision here. One thing that makes it a little bit easier to call is that they have made a deal. That is
Yes.
important. They're playing for 100,000 euros between the two of them, whereas originally it would have been a $400,000 difference, or euro difference. So that matters for sure. It makes it easier to hero here.
No question about it. I think it also makes it easier for Pavel to move in here
Yeah.
a little bit. So like, who really cares anyway? We've already locked up, what, €750,000. It's fine. And so I think that really does play into it. That said, I don't love the push. And so let's talk about why Blom ultimately does make this call.
Okay, so we have to ask ourselves first, what is Pavel's value when he takes this line? And it's only flushes.
And when we say only flushes, because of the turn bet and call, it's probably only nut flushes.
Well, or close to nut flushes. I mean, he could have the king X of hearts, but Blom has the king of hearts.
So-
now, Pavel doesn't know that, obviously.
Of course.
Right, but let's just think about it in a vacuum, what his value is. It pretty much has to be the king X of hearts or the ace X of hearts.
Right.
Because otherwise, he's priced out on the turn. Now, maybe he could have a combo draw sometimes, but you'd expect him to check raise that on the flop or the turn a lot of the time, if not 100% of the time. Now we talk about the nut flush, if he had like the ace 7 of hearts. Against Viktor Blom, especially when they've already made a deal, this guy's just going to 3-bet that pre-flop like all the time, right? I mean,
Most of the time,
it
for
seems
sure.
really likely. Or check raise the flop with it.
Yes, one of those two things almost always. And so, okay, Blom does think. I like calling
Vlom,
him
you called him Vlom in the podcast
Yeah,
a bunch
it's
of
cool.
times too.
Victor Blom. You
Yeah.
put them together, it's Vlom. It's like, Benifer or something,
Yeah.
except it's just one person not
Yeah.
having a relationship with anyone because he's very lonely. So
Wow, that was mean.
but honest. So Blom, like, he just has to live with the fact that once in a while he's going to lose, but he's sitting there and he is tortured, as Grant said, because that's the only thing he's losing to. But nothing else really makes sense either. This guy has to basically be turning one pair into a bluff, which is hard to imagine. People don't do that very often.
Pavel does it.
Well, apparently so, and Blom sniffs it out.
Well, part of sniffing it out is that he has the king of hearts in
Yes.
his hand, because the king X of hearts is the thing that makes the most sense for Pavel to have. Way more sense than the nut flush because of the reasons we already said, where the nut flush would have at least raised at some point along the way most of the time.
Yeah.
With the king, when he has showdown value, he can check, call, then move in. That makes total sense because he can play it to hero on the river if he doesn't make his flush because he has a pair with it. With the ace, he feels so much more confident pre-flop. He might raise on the flop. But with the king, he already has showdown value. Blom blocks that.
I mean, having said all of that, it's still kind of weird, right? Because this guy does have a queen, which is similar showdown value to a king,
It is.
honestly, and plays it as a bluff ultimately. So it is weird, but here we are, and this is why this whole spot is very strange, and it's hard to know what's right and what isn't. Ultimately, I don't love the shove. I think I do like the call specifically because Blom does have the king of hearts.
Yeah, I think if Blom had the king of spades in his hand instead, I think it's a bad call. The king of hearts is key because the most likely value for Pavel is eliminated, and Blom knows that. He also knows, hey, we made a deal. I can be a hero on TV forever.
Yep. And so basically, Blom still doesn't have any bad memories of Pavel. Okay, so we ended up coming up with what we think is, what we think was right and we think was wrong there. Feel really not good about that shove. We think the call is probably good. It's all pretty close. What do you think, though? Let us know in the comments of both Pavel's shove and Blom's decision ultimately to call here. Would you have done it? Why do you think it's right or wrong? We're looking forward to see what you have to say.
Yeah, you could also say something about Blom betting the turn, which is
Yeah.
a very interesting decision that we only got into on our podcast. Now, we had another hero call that was very interesting in a big spot. It was for the Aussie Millions 2016 main event. I think you guys should check that one out.
It's good.
If you enjoyed this one, you're going to enjoy that one. Look right up there.
It's cool, too, because in this hand we just did, Viktor Blom is this seasoned pro. He's seen everything. The money doesn't count him. This other call by this other player, he's an amateur. He's like satellited into the main event. Like the money's huge for him. Everything. He's never been in a spot like this before. So you get to see a real yin and yang type thing.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
Also, check out our podcast, The Breakdown presented by the Poker Guys, where we went like 50 minutes into this hand, talking about all the details. Should Blom bet the turn? What do we think about that? Should Pavel be calling or moving in there? What do we think about all these river decisions and how we got to these points that we ultimately made in the video? Check that out as well.
You should check that out. And if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel.